The globe is done. It's over, bro. It's over. Let me just recap for you guys. Ballers, I hope you took notes. I said the primary part 15 times. I know you had to hear it. You're probably going through some cognitus. The globe is refuted. That's what just happened. Okay? On a globe, you would have 24-hour time zones. Okay? And they would be symmetrical because the Earth's supposedly a sphere. So they would be symmetrical on both sides of the sphere. Let me come back over to the illustration to make sure that you fully understand it. On a sphere, there should be 24-hour time zones. Like this right here. 24-hour time zones on a sphere. The sphere is supposed to be symmetrical, which means the longitude lines all start at the North Pole and they diverge out to the equator, and then they converge back together at the south. Just like from the equator here, they converge back up to the north. It's supposed to be symmetrical on both sides. This longitude line extends all the way around the globe. Slightly diverging, equator back to converging. Spherical geometry. Because there are no parallel lines in spherical geometry. Okay. So, therefore, if we're going to we should be able to easily use our lines of longitude to create time zones. Because the Earth is a sphere that's spinning and half of it's lit up by a sun, which means that the longitude line should give us 24-hour time zones. And they should be the same in the north and the same in the south. But in reality, we do not see this. We see that they've added things to the south, like here in Australia, and they've subtracted time zones in the north. And just like we showed right here, you have to do this to transform a flat Earth into a globe. As that flat map right there begins to change into a globe, those land masses are increasing in area. So you have to stretch these northern land masses out some. But of course, in the south, these longitude lines are getting wider. The area is wider in the south on the plane. So if you're going to make this a ball, you have to actually make the north increase in area, and then you have to make the south decrease in area to be a sphere. And it has to be a symmetrical rate in which this happens. You should have 24-hour time zones that are symmetrical. So all you have to do is fudge the time zones, utilize the fact that people don't have any reference to navigate in the south, and that almost no one does, that these entire portions down here are uninhabited. And then you hide the time zones in there, and what you do, of course, just to clarify here, of course, it makes perfect sense that there's 24-hour time zones, and then they get wider on a flat Earth as you go further south. This is just a recap. So here you see what they did. They stretched the time zones out as they move further west in the most northern portions. So you see this is the time zone here. On this longitude line, it should just go all the way up. It's supposed to be a symmetrical globe, right? But instead, it's deviating to the west all the way over here. It's actually moving 2 time zones over. And then this is doing the same thing, moving over, moving over. Then they get to this climax where they had to basically boil it all down to a portion where they had to hide the leftover time zones. So they just subtracted 3 hours, and they just blatantly throw on the map this super crooked date line where you have 24 hours and 3 hours. That means these 2 islands, these 2 coasts right here, right? They're on the same longitude, but they're not going to see the sun at the same time. Of course they do. They do. And they've tried to get some excuse for this. It's very obvious what they've done. So you have the 3-hour difference here. You stretch the land masses out here because you have to make the flat Earth wider in the north and smaller in the south to make it look like it's a globe and deceive everyone. Then you come over here and you take out the 20th hour, you take out the 18th hour. Then you move down to this portion and you have the full 24 hours. Because again, as it's going to be smaller on a flat Earth than on a globe, it's going to reach that middle ground where they both are going to be, they're going to cross. Then you get further down, so you have your full 24 hours. Then you get further down, and they start adding time zones to make it look like there's, say, 3 time zones here. The 20th hour, the 20 and a half hour, the 21st hour. Why is the 21st hour in the 22nd hour time zone in that longitude? And why is it? This is obviously just 1 hour here, 1 hour there. It's spilled over. The reason it looks like this, again, is because it has parallel longitude time zones here. So there's the recap. Now, when we look over at what they should have done is put these time zones here that actually belong here, because you go from, say, midnight to 3 a.m. You should have 3 hours, and then you should correct this 4-hour position. But this would be obvious that the Earth's not a globe. Everyone would see that. So you just hide it with a crooked line and just tell them just tell people it's a concept, when it's actually based on the position of the sun at noon. Okay, and then you look at the ancient flat Earth maps. This distance is different, and it matches the time zones perfectly. But then, whenever you come over to what they show us the Gleason map, which is, of course, Gleason getting it patented with the longitude and latitude systems of the sphere, basically turning the sphere into a flat Earth. And so then you have discrepancies there, like the distance between these landmasses. So there you go. And then we got into like, oh, well, you should be able to verify this. Well, it's like basically an uncharted area. People right here at the top, at the shortest distance, which makes no difference in the maps, people actually do traverse here, like wind cellars, like once, which was dangerous. But then when you start to move down here, where you get the whole entire deception where it's being hidden, we went and showed you 24/7 flight radar. The planes don't fly right here. They start flying further south. This is the boat, and the planes start flying like down here across like this. They fly over across like this and go up, or they'll fly from here and come down. They don't fly right here where this discrepancy is. We even showed you coincidentally that when I video recorded it, there was a plane going up right here, and then it just paused, froze on the screen, and then disappeared. So this is how they hid the time zones. They added them. They have 19 in the north. So they subtracted time zones, 5 time zones in the north, and then they added time zones in the south. And they have 32 in the south, so they added 8. So they subtracted 5 in the north, added 8 in the south, and they just hid it. It's abundantly clear. Another evidence of this is that the width is the same in America and Australia, and they're on correlating latitudes, which means they should have similar time zones, but they don't. America has 4 time zones, and Australia only has 2 time zones. And just because you add a half in the middle doesn't mean they have 3 time zones. They have 2. There's the 20, I think it's the 21st hour and the 22nd hour. The 20th and the 21st hour. You don't get to just add a half and act like there's 3. Okay, there's 4 in the north with the same width as Australia on the correlating latitude. But again, this makes no sense on a globe. It should be 24 top to bottom, just basic geometry. Yet on the flat Earth, it does actually make sense, as we see right there. And we see right here that the reason Australia only has 2 time zones, as in there's only 2 hours based on the position of the sun that crosses Australia, is because the longitude lines actually get wider in the south, and the sun moves faster. In the north, the sun doesn't move as fast. So you have much longer sunrises and sunsets, and you can see the afterglow of the sun much longer. And you get the 4 time zones. Just like he said with all of his experience of sailing, that the south, the sun's way different. It gets to obscurity, as he put it, much faster. Okay? Because it's moving faster. That's it. There's the deception. You can choose to turn your head from this, or you can just accept the very obvious, blatant truth that's sitting right in front of you, which is that they hid the nature of the world. And they hid the nature of the world with the maps, which they transposed a globe onto a flat Earth. And they did this by stretching the north and then collapsing the south. And then they hid most of their stuff in 2 places. Now, it's easy to hide all the stuff in the south because no one lives there. and the vast majority of it's unexplored or uninhabitable oceans. And you have no reference to even really sail. So you can't even really keep up with what your distances are when you're going in the south like that, right? Which we've been saying forever, which is not a coincidence that you don't see these long trekked journeys in the south at the 50th or 55th latitude. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. Makes perfect sense on a flat earth. So there you go. They were able to hide in the south pretty easily, but they ran into a problem in the north. That's where 90% of the world lives, right? So the land masses are much closer together as it would be on a flat earth. So you just use the time zones to stretch it out, and then you hide this area where you can't verify the distance or the time zones right at the strait. It's pretty ingenious. And then you use magnetic declination to actually deceive the people traveling in the south to fall right in line with the deception of the time zones that you hid. They're never going to know. It's pretty crazy. So there you go.